Hey guys, it's Alexander again. Coming off from the last episode, where we added our sound effect to our little thug character, we'll be moving on to looking at how the switches work and how footsteps work. Saying that, in between now and then, feel free to have went around each area and added whatever sound effects you felt were fun. Whether it be adding a little grumble of this wizard saying something, whether it be, like I said before, the tapping of the shoes. You could just add little voice lines to characters you come near. The further you get into game development as a side thing, you'll find ways to interact with characters that you talk to, but within this, I'll just be talking about how to implement wise sounds. Anyway, moving on from that, we'll start to discuss switches. Now, this can come in a few different ways. Here, on the player character, I control my switches with a terrain switcher. Now, there can be much simpler ways to do this, especially in a 3D environment, but for the sake of also giving you a little idea into how to use Unity, we can look at the script. Now, this, I understand, can be completely terrifying to look at. I've tried to make it as simple as I can, as I'm not too developed in it myself. What you can know is up here, we have our basic movement headers. These can actually be seen here. Is moving, move speed. These are the variables we get to sort of control and talk about. Where we talk about the switches, we have all of our different terrains here. If we were to add any more, we'd add them there. We have something that detects our current terrain, says the Wwise event that it wants to play, interacts with the switch, and as we go further down, we can see we have a basic piece of code here. It checks the terrain. So it does a little raycast hit, which, for reference, if we look at a little character, imagine a raycast is just a little laser that comes off the character. For the purposes of this little raycast all goes down 0.2 feet, so very minimally. What it means is that it will change terrain, change the current terrain based on what the raycast hits. And then here we have the select and play, depending on what terrain we're on. Now understand, a lot of that might sound confusing. This is maybe a bit advanced, and while I've tried to make it as simple as I can, it's easier to see in practice. When we look at our player character here, we have our terrain switches with all of our different ground types that we've named in our switches, that you've seen in Wwise. Here we go to game syncs, we have all of our switches. The code is just there to help us define it with the raycast, letting it detect. Now you'll not always need to do that. There'll be times where you can just do it all specifically within Unity or just within Wwise. The only reason I've done the raycast is just to show you that you can do things with scripts if that's something you're comfortable with. Anyway, moving outside of that, we can look at the switches. In a second, we'll delete a ground type, and then we'll show you how, using Reaper, you can grab a big chunk of footsteps, divvy them how you like it, and then add them individually into Wwise. So, first to add steps, we're going to take some footsteps away, just so you can sort of see the process back to front, so to speak. So, the option we'll go for is the cave steps. As you might have noticed in the download link on the website, the concrete came with this as well as this. Now, this is for two things. The edited night step is one that's been edited with an extra sound on top of it with the footsteps to emulate metal clinking, like the armour. However, before you do that, you need to just get the raw footsteps, that being the concrete footsteps. This is just a long file just with footsteps on stone. You could even just record it on your phone outside if you wanted to get used to doing a bit of your own sound effects, but feel free to just use this. So, we'll go on this, we can go to our audio, and we can just delete. Can hurt a bit to do it knowing that they're gone, but it'll be good for us in the end of it. So now that those are gone, we'll make our own. I've already pre-downloaded the little concrete file and just put it here. What we do is we go to Reaper, we can drag our footstep in, and then we can edit it. Because of it being just one long audio file where it's constantly ticking along, we want to make it so that we have a bunch of individual footsteps. This can be a bit of a meticulous task, but it ends up in a much better product. So for example, we just go here, right click, split, drag it down. Now if we solo this on the S, that's one footstep. We can solo this again. Again, we'll just split it cursor, go to the start, another footstep. I'm going to sit and do this for a few of them, but if you just make sure you have 4 or 5, then you'll be ready. So, now that we've got our footsteps, we just need to render save the file. Again, we can just do it here, just call it stone footstep. And then we'll do what we've done before. Slightly different method, but simple as render. Rather than doing the master mix, which is all of them playing at the same time, which might be a bit hectic, we'll do our selected stem. That's just this selected track. For this, we'll click the top one. We'll call this stone footstep 1. Keep it as a WAV. Render. Back. Click on this one. Stone footstep 2. Render. Again, just go through this process, do it for each, depending on how many you've done, and then we'll be ready for the next step. So, now that it's all rendered up, it should just be wherever you sent it directory-wise. Now, preferably, you don't want to just leave it like this. It's a bit messy, so you can always just make a little file, call it stone steps, just drag everything from it, put it in there. It's always important your housekeeping while you do this, keeping your folders easy to read, easy to handle. It's better for the computer. It's better for everything. But now we've got a bunch of footsteps, all in WAV form, meaning we can go back to Wwise. We still have a random container. We can import audio files. Add files for me. Stone steps. Click top. Click the bottom. Import. Again, now we've got these footsteps. Easy. They're all within the random container, which if you did delete, remember, you just right click on your footstep switch container, new child, make a random container. But if not, that's just got a random container. If you click on this and press space, or just the play button down here, you'll notice each perfectly switch, and it avoids the last one. However, we are missing that effect from before. This can easily be fixed if we go to effects. We have to override the parent, that being the master audio bus, just so we can get our own effects in this. And we can just add a simple thing such as matrix reverb, sorry. Now, it's obviously a bit strong, but this gives you time to fiddle with some of these buttons. Now, you want to be careful. Dry level being the amount of the original sound coming through, and the wet level being the amount of the effect sound coming through. A simple amount of having a lot of the dry in here with a minimal amount of the wet means we just get a little bit of echo on those footsteps. There's other effects you can add, but reverb's always going to be the simplest, for it just adds a bit of an echo, bit of a room to it, bit of a extended area. There's other things you can do, like room verb, and then there's stereo delay, which will just add a bit of delay to the footsteps, but feel free to fidget with that and see what works with you. So, now that we've got a reverb in there, adding a nice echoey quality to our footsteps, we can go in and just listen to how it sounds. If you did walk into the cave area before, you'll hopefully notice the difference from what I'd had it previously to what it sounds like now. Especially depending on how strong or weak you put the reverb. And I don't think it's too overwhelming, but we are hearing some footsteps clipping into each other, and it could maybe do with a little less of the reverb effect and a little more of just the step, just so there's still an echoey quality, but it's not too strong. This is an easy fix for us. All we need to do for the reverb, just go on our cave footsteps to the effects tab within the designer layout. We can remove a bit of the wet levels and add an extra level of dry. You can do this more specific just by typing, but just for the sake of quickness and showing that it's easy, we'll just use the little sliders. Now, if we listen to this, the effect's still there, but it's definitely not as prominent. As well as this, we can go to our individual footsteps, and what we can do is edit the actual source file. One example of what we can do is just drag this down so it doesn't last for as long, and we fade out. This is something we can do that can help reduce the clipping a bit with the fade out, hopefully fading out your footstep before anything else happens. We just do this for each. And then go to your sound bank and we'll generate it twice. Now don't worry about it taking too long to load or if things go a bit awry. For my computer specifically, it's just because it needs a bit of a tidy up, but it still works and we still get there in the end. Now we can just go to your demo, we can click play again. Might take a second now that the sound bank is regenerated, but we can just walk to the cave. And we have our new footsteps, which I do think fits this a bit more and isn't as overwhelming. Now that we've added our own sounds, we've seen how to cut it up and implement it, and we've added some effects, we've seen it in practice, we can have a look at how the switches work with this. We've seen how the switches work here, but for the sake of doing it yourself, we can go to Wwise, we can go to our game syncs, and what I recommend doing before going into the next lesson is doing what we just done there, but with grass. So what you can do, just delete it, and if you want, you can use within the footsteps file here, just use the grass, or what you can do is go outside with your phone and just record some footsteps, whether it be you holding your phone and just walking, making sure to stomp a bit harder, or whether it just be holding your phone next to the grass, having a couple pairs of shoes in your hands and slapping on the grass. This will give you an opportunity to make your own sounds, but will then let you, once this is deleted, go through the process of adding a new random container, calling it grass steps, and just implementing these new sounds into here. As well as this, you can go to the game syncs, delete this, and just to get a hang of it, so that you understand the process, you don't need to add a new switch group holder, as we already have that, but you can go into the ground types, add the switch, implement grass, go into Unity, and make sure to click on this new grass that you've implemented. It won't have the same name, but that's it, just readjusting to this new thing you've added. As well as this, for this grass container, you'd go to footsteps within the designer layout, go to your general settings, and make sure that your new grass has been dragged in, just so that it's still assigned to the switch grass. Doing all this will give you an opportunity to understand how switches work and let you put it into application a bit, as well as gaining a bit of fun and knowledge in making your own sounds. Obviously, you can still use these, it's why it's all here, but I do recommend going out and just having a bit of fun with it. It's part of the fun of making sounds for games is the aspect of Foley, which is the process of making your own sounds, either using a specific thing, such as walking on grass, or maybe going outside the box. Maybe if you want to make metal jingle on someone's armour, you don't have to get a suit of armour, maybe you get some cutlery, you shake it about and you edit the effect, a concept we will explore in later episodes. But now I'll leave you for the moment, and in the next episode we'll finally start to discuss how we go around making music and implementing it into the game. This will have us focus a lot more on Reaper, and it will give you a quick run through on using labs and Spitfire, making some music, and simple concepts that you can do for building up a song. whether it be making a simple melody or just how to start the process in whole. But again, thank you for listening.